Don't let him tell you who he is from his past. Let him show you who he is with his present. Let him show you who he is with his actions. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Karla Eli Show. I'm your host, Karla Eli, and I'm here to guide you towards wisdom so that you may unlock a life of abundance by mastering the feminine balance. Before we get started, please make sure to like and subscribe so that I know that the show is doing well. We are going to get better with time. Please be kind to my gentle soul if you leave some comments down below. I do read them. Without further ado, let's get into it. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how do you know whether or not you should trust a man that you are seeing, that you are dating? How to know if he is telling you the truth, if he is being honest? I didn't really think about this question until one of you had asked me, because for me, my discernment is very well built. I could tell when a man is lying. I could tell when he's being dishonest. I could just smell it. Many times in my life before, a lot of men always tell me, Karla, you just have this ability of making me feel naked. And today I'm going to tell you one of my secrets of what I do to make sure he's telling the truth. But honestly, this all starts with you. The tips that I'm going to be sharing with you are only going to work if you have already forgiven the man that has hurt your heart. I repeat, the tips that I'm going to be sharing with you are only going to work if you have already healed the trauma and the past hurt from the man who has broken your heart before. The reason why you have a hard time trusting a man is because you trusted the wrong man and think that all men are like that. Or perhaps you saw a lot of cheating or a lot of distrust within your parents' relationship, and you project that onto men who are not your parents. To avoid that shenanigans, you need to learn how to heal that first. We cannot move forward holding on to our triggers, our traumas, and our past hurt. That is something that I keep seeing in the dating scene nowadays. A lot of people using their past hurt as an excuse and almost as a crutch to why they can't find successful prospects or be in successful relationships. A lot of people, instead of talking about their future, talking about their dreams, a lot of us spend most of our time during dates talking about our past. Of course, you're having an awful time in dating because you keep talking about your past. No one cares. Sorry, that sounds so messed up. No one cares. I know that when I was rotational dating, all the guys that I was with, I never allowed them to talk to me about their past relationships ever. And if they asked me about my past relationships, I always told them, oh, they were great, because they really were. All of my ex-boyfriends, I only had two. They were so sweet to me. I only took the good because they genuinely were the sweetest. And that's all my now husband needed to know at the time. And I never asked him questions about his ex because I told him from the get-go, I don't want to know. Show me who you are. And a lot of the times what happens that blocks you from discerning is when you are in a date, you want to know his past so that you can analyze him, but that's what is blocking you from discerning him. Don't let him tell you who he is from his past. Let him show you who he is with his present. Let him show you who he is with his actions. A quick story time. I remember one of the boundaries that I had in my relationship was you cannot look through my phone. You cannot look through my phone. That was the one thing that I had with all of my relationships. And still to this day, I'm not going to look through your phone. You're not going to look through my phone. The moment that we look through each other's phones is the moment that our relationship is over. I was so strict back then. And my husband, I'm going to spill the tea. In the early stages of us dating, my husband was like, there's no way that this girl is a virgin. There's no way that this girl is as good as she seems. There's like no way. My husband had trust issues. Okay. He had big trust issues and he had, reasons for that. But, on my end, I was like, why doesn't he believe me? And so my husband did what I told him not to do. He looked through my phone once. And it took him 2 days to come out clean because I don't hide anything. It's not like I tell him to not look through my phone because I'm hiding. I tell him to not look through my phone because it's a boundary and it's a trust for me, right? But he looked through my phone once. It took him 2 days to come clean because he was Like, he was crying. He was like, I feel so bad. When he came out clean, he's like, I feel so bad. I'm so sorry I broke this boundary, because he knew the type of woman that I was, and he was terrified of losing me. He was terrified because he had looked through my phone and came, disappointed. He was disappointed with the things that he found, because you know what he found? Nothing. The only thing he found was what my ex looked like. And that was hurtful, because I only date cute looking men. I only date attractive men. So it ended up hindering him than helping him. And I told him, don't look through my phone. I have the best, I've always just had an amazing time when it comes to dating and relationships. And I did it intentionally, because I'm telling you my tips right now. You go into relationships not expecting the worst. You go into relationships expecting the best, and you receive the best. I'm going to repeat that again. You go into relationships expecting the best, and you receive the best, because you have high expectations, not from the person. These expectations aren't directly associated to the person that you're seeing. It's the relationship as a whole. Because then, instead of thinking of like, oh, he's not going to take me out on a date, or he's not going to take me out. No, you do the complete opposite. You're like, no, we are going to go on a date, and you make it happen. It's all about mindset here, okay? You attract what you are. You attract what you are. But I just wanted to share a little bit of a little bit of a story time. But you know what? Let's put a pause on this story time. It's essential for us to talk about this, because it was in the early stages of my dating life that he had looked through my phone, and it was one of the boundaries that I had. So what did I do? Did I dump him afterwards? No, I didn't, because I saw that there was more to him. We have to have discernment. Even though it was a big boundary for me, and I was like, wow, this man just did not respect my boundary. Once he had told me a little bit of his background story, because at that point he needed to disclose why he had big trust issues, and he had, confessed that he had been with someone that had lied to him in the worst gruesome way. I understood. But that opened up the conversation of, I'm not here to fix someone else's broken plates. That's how I managed that situation. So once he came clean, and I told him, I appreciate you telling me the truth. Thank you for telling me the truth. You know, I am going to need 3 days of separation. I told him, I'm going to need 3 days to think about what we need to do next, because I told you to not look through my phone. I trusted you. That was a boundary for me. How can I trust you next time if you do look through my phone and don't tell me? And he respected that. He said, okay, take the time you need. I told him, give me 3 days and we'll come back and discuss. And that's when he opened up about his past relationship. And he told me, look, the reason why I have such a hard time with trust is because XYZ. And that's when I told him, I understand. But if that's the case, don't date. If you are still hurt and you're expecting me and you're blaming me to fix someone else's broken plates, this is not going to work. So either you decide to walk into a relationship without that baggage and you decide to trust me, or this is not going to work. Because I'm not here to fix someone else's mistakes. That is not fair. And that's when I told them, what? You think that I wasn't hurt before? But I don't place the blame on you for that. Even though I did have great dating experiences before, that doesn't mean that I wasn't hurt. It would be unfair for me to judge you based off of what someone else did to me. You are not the same person. And then you see what he does. You see how he responds. You see how he acts. Because when you have these conversations and you give him the ball's back to his court, that is when he shows you the type of man he is, the type of character that he has. And see, my husband passed the test for me. Because after that moment, never again did he bring up his exes. Ever. Till this day. Unless I ask. Unless I get a little curious and I get a little toxic. But never again did he ever blame or place the blame on me for something that his ex did. Because he knew that a woman like me is hard to come by. And a woman like you is also hard to come by. But you have to give him a choice, and you need to let him show you who he is with his actions. See, the reason why I took that risk and why I'm telling you to take that risk is because love is risky. I can give you all the tips, all the discernment, all the advice, but the matter of fact is relationships and love are risky. You are bound to get hurt, but the ride was worth it. The experience was worth it. And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. But that's okay because you just got to shake it off and then you keep moving forward. But there are systems and routines that you can place within your dating to avoid so many heartbreaks. For example, the reason why I gave my husband a second chance during that fatal fall is one, he showed me that he can't lie. This man cannot lie. He can't. He came out clean. He was honest. And he told me what he had done. He didn't have to because I didn't notice, honestly. But he felt guilty because he knew that he had disrespected me. Secondly, before this, he had shown me that he was committed. He had a stable career and he was stable all around. And I like that. He showed character. He was a man. I was dealing with a man. I wasn't dealing with a boy. Mind you, he was 23. He was so young. And he was at my same level mentally. That is hard to come by. He knew how to stimulate me mentally. That is hard to come by. Thirdly, he knew what he wanted. He was a man of his word. And because he was a man of his word, he knew he needed to tell me the truth. These are the things that I thought about before I told him to give me a 3-day break. You see how I didn't say, we're breaking up right now. I didn't give him any of that shenanigans. I told him, you know what? You've been seeing me continuously. Because you did this, I need some space. I need some space to think about it. And those 3 days were hell for him. Those 3 days were hell for him because you know what that allows him to do? Reflect, analyze, and realize that I was a good woman, that he had not found anything on my phone, and that I could attract, that I had options, and that I could attract good-looking men. So same thing here with you. When you're in the dating stage, I do not want you throwing the word breaking up at all in the early stages. You need to analyze him for the whole package. Don't analyze him just by that one mistake that he made, even if you're angry. But this takes maturity and discernment. Because by the way, prior to this point, my husband was on a good streak. He was showing me all the good things and he was open about everything. He had already shown me his credit score. He had shown me how much money he was making. He had shown me everything. But because he didn't believe in himself, that I was a good woman, he just needed to have insurance that I was the woman that I was saying I was. Because of his own disbelief, his own limiting beliefs. It wasn't because of me. It was because of him. But how many times is it reversed? How many times is it that because you have a lot of disbelief, you don't know which man to trust? Because you have a lot of baggage, you don't know how to let go of your fears. Because you've made so many mistakes in the past, you don't know how to trust yourself anymore. And you lose a good man. Has that happened? I don't know. But how can you know that he has good intentions? Well, you need to ask him why he's in a relationship in the first place, why he wants to date in the first place. Prior to us getting to that point where we were seeing each other continuously, I had asked him on our first date, what do you want out of this dating experience? And he had opened up and he told me that he wanted family. It was like, the truth is, if I don't find someone here in San Diego, because he was in the military, I'm going to go back to the Middle East and serve. But if I find someone here, I'm going to settle down. So he was ready. That was like ding, 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 green flag for me. Because he wasn't looking to mess around. He was ready. He knew what he wanted. And he knew that if he wasn't going to find a girl or a woman during those 2 years of him dating or a year of him dating, he was going to go back to the Middle East because my husband has a heart to serve and he likes to serve his country. So he knew what he wanted. But you need to ask him, what do you want in a relationship? And if he says, I don't know, if he says, I'm looking, if he says any of those things, it's not his fault, but he's just not the one, babe. If you are someone who is committed, who knows what she wants, and he's responding in that way, then have a good time, get the experience on that date, but thank you next. Because we're looking for men who know what they want. We're looking for men who want a family. And by the way, you're not going to ask him in a way of like, what do you want with me? You're going to ask him in general. In this dating phase of your life, like, what are you looking for? Keep it open, keep it light, keep it fun. Make it about him. It's not about you. The reason why a lot of you struggle when it comes to dating is because I want to talk about my feelings. I want to talk about this. We talked about this before. That's why there's girlfriends. When it comes to being with your man, you got to let him feel important. I hope this is making sense, and I hope I'm not offending any of you. But let's say that this man says, I want to get married, I want a family, I want to settle down. How can he prove himself to you that that is the truth? How can you discern that those are his true intentions? Well, at this point, you need boundaries and standards. And this is how you filter them out. So, some of the boundaries and standards that I had when I was dating was one, I wasn't going to be intimate until marriage. Now, I don't know where you are in your life or in your relationship. I don't know if you're capable of doing this, but if you cannot wait until marriage, at least wait 3 months. Second boundary, I had a curfew. Granted, I was living with my parents at the time, but it was the best thing ever. I had a curfew and I respected that curfew whenever we would go out on dates. Midnight was my curfew. Nothing good happens after midnight. That way, if he wanted to see me again, he needed to plan out the next date. Again, leaving him wanting more, allowing him to pursue me. Thirdly, this goes hand in hand with the intimacy part, but I'm just going to say it, no sleepovers. That benefit comes when you are my husband. You're not going to see me wake up next to you until you're my husband. He will try to push your boundaries, but that's also how he builds respect for you. The reason why he's going to push your boundaries is because he wants to see, can you say no? And he's going to try and try and try. We're just built like that. Okay? There are some men who are respectful and won't try, but usually the masculine ones, the ones who are like, are you really sure about this? And he'll try to push. So that's why you need to have self-respect and self-love for yourself. And that's when you say, oh no, we're not doing that. In a kind way. You don't have to be rude. But by having these boundaries and he comes back and keeps pursuing you, that's how you know his intentions. Because a man is going to get bored. He will get bored at some point if you keep having those boundaries and you're like, no, 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 no. He'll get bored and then he will show you right away his intentions and you gave him nothing. You are preserving your heart. That is how you preserve your heart. By having these boundaries, by having your standards clear. Because mind you, standards isn't like, he has to pay on the first date. Yes, duh, everybody knows that. But boundaries and standards also goes back to you and the way that you see yourself and respect yourself. Recap, how can you trust a man? How can you see his intentions right off the bat? One, you can't. I want to make it very clear, you can't. It is a risk that you have to take. This is when you need to build out your discernment and see if he is a man of character. Once he starts talking about himself and the way that he views himself, how is he speaking about himself? Mind you, when I first met, my husband and all the other prospects, they were all fulfilled. They were all successful and they were happy where they were. And they had a goal in mind. The goal that they had was they wanted family. They were family men. That is how you use your discernment to see if you can trust them or not. If they do not pass the test and they're all over the place, they're chaotic Chloes, that's a good indicator that they don't even trust themselves, so you shouldn't trust them. Secondly, you build boundaries and you build your standards so that if they are trying to play games with you, your boundaries will protect you from them hurting you. I gave 3 examples of my own boundaries. One of them was I wasn't going to be intimate until marriage. The second one was no sleepovers. And the third one was the curfew rule. I think I switched 2 of them, but you get the point. And if he's still pursuing you, you can trust him. Going back to my first point, but I need to state it again. You can trust him if the goal is the same as yours. Trust him if the goal is the same as yours. In regards to dating, if he's also looking for family, if he's also looking for marriage, there is no benefit of him hurting you, because then that'll mean that he will lose the opportunity of being with you. Third point, the most important one. You can only trust him if you trust yourself. You cannot go into the dating scene thinking that he is going to hurt you. If you set the expectations low for yourself, they will manifest themselves. You attract what you are. You cannot place the blame of someone else's mistakes onto your current partner. You're bound to fail in dating if that's what you do. Obviously, you can't heal 100% from the person who has hurt you in the past, but you absolutely don't have to blame the current person you have in front of you. Master this, and trusting people is going to be easier. Trusting prospects is going to be easier. Go into the dating scene expecting the best. Because then, if you expect the best, you will show up as the best version of yourself. And that'll excite the person that you have in front of you, and he will show up as his best self as well. Only high frequency, ladies. I hope this makes sense. And as always, ladies, be wise.